We are probably living in the last moments of true freedom of speech and privacy on the internet. I normally don't do this type of videos, but the internet needs you. When we talk about censorship, you automatically think of governments going after the internet. Nothing new under the sun. But recently, it's becoming increasingly more clear what they want. In case you've been living under a rock, the Online Safety Act started being implemented in the UK almost a month ago, with the aim of protecting children from potentially harmful content, by forcing everyone to provide an ID to prove if they're an adult or not. It started with pornographic websites, which we can all agree that we don't want children to see them, but it quickly proved to be more than just that. The vagueness of this law quickly proved to be malicious, as not only YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Twitter, Patreon, Reddit, Discord, Xbox, and even Wikipedia are now asking UK users to post their IDs or selfies so they can simply use it. And if you don't, you'll either be restricted or your account will be deleted. And at this speed, the whole world will follow it if we don't do anything about it. Australia will ban YouTube for those under 16. YouTube in the US is using AI to determine whether you're an adult based on what you watch. This act was never about protecting kids. Nothing is stopping kids from getting their parents' ID to use them, and people have already found ways to bypass it. Face recognition is way too dangerous, especially as AI continues to grow. And let's not even talk about the fact that companies responsible for seeing and storing the IDs or photos are now an even bigger target for hackers. And we already suffer with a lot of data breaches. No thanks. Now imagine doing that verification 100 times in hundreds of companies. I don't need to tell you how intrusive this is. We're slowly moving towards a world where mass surveillance is the norm and privacy is non-existent. And where your freedom of expression, even though a right, will be used against you, as is already happening in the UK, where people are getting arrested for exercising their rights, and there are vans and cameras with AI technology to do face recognition. They're basically treating everyone like China does. And if you thought that you would be safe because you have a VPN, they're now moving to force age verification on VPNs, which breaks the whole purpose of using one to begin with. The AVPA wants online platforms that fall under the Online Safety Act to not only detect VPN usage, but also analyze to guess whether someone might be a minor in disguise. If flagged, users will have to prove their age with an ID, or allow a one-time geolocation to confirm you're outside the UK. There are even cases where the UK has overstepped its boundaries and tried to silence Americans and American companies. But thankfully, the US is starting to slap back. On the day of recording this, Cloudflare, a website that helps provide security to other domains, started to affect websites. I gotta say, man, there are a lot of people who are doing God's work here. Shout out to them, honestly. Unfortunately, Europe is going down the same path with the Digital Services Act, and there are already copycats in the United States. While these attacks came from governments, the next one hasn't. This chapter started way before the Online Safety Act, but it came to surface after what payment processors did. It all started with an organization called Collective Shout, an Australian organization that previously went after GTA 5 and Detroit Become Human for completely stupid reasons. They went after payment processors, in this case mastercard and Visa, and I believe PayPal and Stripe, I'm not 100% sure about the last one, which eventually led to Steam removing hundreds of games. Obviously there were several people who supported this in the beginning, as their target was 18+ games, starting with rape and incest games, but it was only the beginning of something extremely worrying. Because soon after, all not safe for work games on itch.io were quote-unquote removed, even though most of them were legal, because of the payment processors, even bleeding to normal games. A well-known case was the banning of the game Vile on Steam, for which the payment processor's excuse was sexual content with depictions of real people. This is a horror game, by the way. Its purpose is to make people uncomfortable by touching on sensitive topics to raise awareness and empathy. And of course to scare the person, but that's part of the fun. This censorship in general is horrible, because today is adult games, but who's stopping the next organization to target, let's say, horror games? Because they're too frightening, especially now that they have a formula that works. And I hope that the thought inside of your head right now is, who the hell are they to tell me what I can and cannot buy with my own hard-earned money? Of course, this does not apply for illegal stuff. This is not the first time Collective Shout successfully censored something that they did not like, and it's not the first time that this organization has twisted and lied about information just so they look like the good guys. Even though they defend cuties, people rightfully so were mad about this and started to take matters into their own hands by bombarding payment processors with calls, and after a while, those companies finally began to crack down. Visa and MasterCard tried to deny it, thus shifting the blame to the platforms, but Valve quickly held them by their tail. Valve stated that the payment processors denied Valve's 2018 content policy and told them that Valve must follow their 5.12.7 rule, which also involves video games that reflect negatively on MasterCard's and Visa's brand, or content that lacked serious artistic value. And if companies did not comply, there will be consequences. So it doesn't matter if it is legal, if they don't like it, you won't receive it. The rule is so vague that it leaves a lot of wiggle room for interpretation, and all payment processors decide what has and what doesn't have artistic value. Ridiculous. I consent. I also consent. Am I forgetting someone? And there's something that Bellular News said that I sadly agree with, which is about the new legislation that Trump passed, which guaranteed fair banking for all Americans. Although very good, has a tiny phrase that says that it doesn't protect Americans 100% because if the banks see that a certain transaction is too risky for their brand, they can and most likely will justify them as such.
Basically, what would happen is MasterCard would look at your adult game. They would write a report, they'd talk about high chargeback rates, reputational risk, legal liability concerns, and boom, there you go. Objective, risk-based, individualized.
Speaking of the US, recently Roblox has been under fire due to them failing to protect kids online, to the point where the USA government, thankfully, is investigating Roblox. Although a good thing, this is being used to pass the Kids Online Safety Act. And again, do not be fooled. It's never about protecting children. Do not let it pass. It gets worse. The EU is trying to pass an act that allows every citizen of the EU to lose their privacy by removing end-to-end encryption and making AI read and scan all your messages and images and report you to the authorities without you ever knowing. Again, all in the name of protecting children. And want to know the craziest thing? This is not even fair. The government will maintain their privacy because they're professionals. We're just fucking puppets. We deserve nothing. Privacy and freedom of speech are both rights that are non-negotiable. But yet, from 27 governments, 15 approved, 9 are still undecided, and only 3 are against it. But there's still time, since now, it's up for the MPs in the EU to either say yes or no. And you can follow it all on fightchatcontrol.eu. I know that all of this sounded crazy, but this is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's right in your face. It's mass surveillance, censorship, and control. This year has been tough for everyone. Governments cracking down on the internet, and sprinting to take away everyone's rights, and evil people everywhere, dude. But this is where you can make a difference. Stand against censorship. Do not comply with digital IDs. Be vocal and persistent about it. Keep calling or sending emails to payment processors. And in general, be informed about who's pushing acts, what they stand for, and who's in their circle, and fight for your rights. Children's protection is important, but it's mostly the parents' job to use what they have to protect them. It simply takes an hour to prevent years of damages, and it's the platform's job to actively be on the lookout for users breaking the rules and taking care of them. My solution to this? Raising awareness like they used to back then. PSAs, real conversations, and even a few classes for parents on how to protect their children online. I remember seeing and listening to presentations on how horrible drinking was, and look where we are now. Gen Z is the least drinking generation, and fixing the economy. My country hasn't yet been affected by such acts, but it's just a matter of time until it does. Spreading the word is very important, and I wanted to do my part. I wish that everything goes back to what it used to be before the Online Safety Act. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Do your part. The internet needs you to stand up for yourself. Till next time, take care, my friend.